recently I had a request to explain how to do some bending. So just to explain really quickly about bending, let's see if we can have a shot at it. Just remember, and which was borne out by a friend who recently called in. His idea when playing lead was just to bend a note, but he didn't seem to realise that it had to be bent to a certain pitch for it to make some sort of sense. So once we got that idea transmitted, all of a sudden the playing went from an element of amateurish sound to something which was sounding quite decent, just because of the idea of that you have to bend to a pitch. So, so with this, as one young YouTube subscriber said, a wiggle. So we're going to do the wiggle, not the wiggles, but the wiggle. All right. So here we have it. Once again, we're in A. The chosen key of our lessons. Now, what I did see years ago was a chap in a band do this. Because I was used to only going, and I liked the way he went. And when I first started doing it, it was just like, it wasn't very good. And it was certainly amateurish. So now that we have, and that's the idea. Now, we can bend these notes in a way that is going to cause them to sound quite evil, or it won't encourage your family to ask you to keep playing, or your wife, or your mum or dad. Okay, so now let's get right into it. Now the first thing we're going to do is, that's all you got to do. Now let's just have a look at the back of my hand. That's what it's doing there, and out the front here. That should make some sort of sense. So let's try it again. Now I'm trying to quieten everything else down here because I have a little bit of gain on here. And with this one, I'm using the 3 fingers, well, at least 2, to pull it down. Okay? Now, so you've got the pointer finger just on the 5th fret there. And what I don't want to do is this, which is well explained on other channels. I don't want to push and pull it. I just want to take it, increase the pitch, bring it back to where it's neutral. There's no tension on the string. Bring it up again. Now you can bend them a fair way if you wish to. We're sort of heading up 4 frets there. Or very, very minute, which they call a quarter bend. Then you've got your half bend, which is basically just bending to the pitch of this fret here. So that's how you might practice it. Then to this pitch here, which they call a tone, but you'd probably use another finger to do that. Oh, hang on. Everybody's got tuners these days, and you'll see that I'm not absolutely 100% correct there in those pitches. So the idea is, if you got the down and then you got the push up. Now why is my thumb all over here? The classical players are saying that's very naughty, but when you've got gain on and you're playing that sort of bluesy sort of sound with a bit of grunge or distortion, you're going to need to have this guy here to quieten everything else down, and this hand here quietening all other strings except for the ones that you're bending. Okay, so there you have it. Now what you can also do is you've got those notes that just ring like that, and you've got the... So that'll be one challenge, is to actually bend to the pitch of a note and then wiggle it while you're there, or employ vibrato while you're there. And then you've got bending two, well, at least one note with another stationary. That's where this guy comes in handy on your Strats and Floyd Roses and so forth, because you can still get that tremolo. You might bend two notes there at the same time. You might do it with your two fingers like that, or you could do it like that. And then you might bend one and then have two others held down. Or you might have a quick succession. And so forth. So there's a lot of things to it, but it's just wiggling away. So there's a little bit on the idea of wiggling, but if you've got one of these guitars and your tremolo is actually floating, that means you can push on it. So I often employ that, just to mix it up anyway. All right, so that's the wiggle, or we should say vibrato for those of us that know better. And see how you go with that. Once again, it's like all other things. It might sound totally foreign and silly and amateurish when you first start, but just keep at it and tune your ear, because initially you won't hear it. You'll think you're doing great, but listen to people around you, listen to people who know, see if you can play in front of someone who knows how to do it well, and just get some advice off them, and then you'll get the idea and away you go. Okay, so see how you go.